I think we have everyone, yes? Everyone that we're going to have. And I think we have a couple of attendees who will be joining us shortly, and we will bring them over as necessary to be panelists. Roger, welcome. Thank you for joining us, even though you're on vacay. All right, let's get to it. It's late. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law of 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2022 to the record in Star in December 2021, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Miss Adams?
Here.
Miss Kripe?
Here.
Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Miss Engel is excused. Mayor Daffis.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231 PL 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has a discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas it is the desire of this governing body to comply with the provision of this act and at the same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood that it does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to observation of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved. Second.
Miss Adams?
Yes.
Miss Kripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Please join me in salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome, friends and neighbors, to our August 1st meeting. We are meeting 1 hour later than usual. We usually start at 7:30, but we started at 8:30 tonight due to the wonderful community building celebration of National Night Out that we attended at Hart Park. It was a great opportunity to be together as neighbors and to commend and salute and congratulate and greet all of our amazing officers of the Maplewood Police Department. They really put on a wonderful family-friendly event, and we thank them and we were grateful to be with them. All right, so tonight we have the following agenda as previously published and posted. We will officially, by motion, appoint the Community Emergency Response Team, otherwise known as CERT. We introduced them to the community at the last meeting, but we failed by motion to officially appoint them. We will be doing that this evening, and committee member DeLuca will lead us in that effort. Then we will introduce to the public and officially appoint two new other volunteers, Brian Callahan to the Recreation Advisory Committee and Mr. John Sullivan to the Hilton Neighborhood Association, to the Fields Committee, excuse me, Mr. Callahan to the Fields Committee and John Sullivan to the Fields Committee, both of them being representatives of different groups. Mr. Callahan from the Recreation Advisory Committee and Mr. Sullivan from the Hilton Neighborhood Association. And that will be led by committee member Kripe. That will lead us to our first of two public comment sessions, the first one for agenda items only. We will then segue into our Board of Health meeting. Because Deputy Mayor Engel, who is the chair of the Board of Health, is not with us this evening, I will be the chair of the Board of Health, just like old times. We have no ordinances on final passage, but we have 4 introductions of ordinances. One that relates to a stop sign, several that relate to parking, and one that relates to amending our sidewalk cafe ordinance to add to establish a fee of $150 per year for securing an outdoor cafe license. That will take us then into administrative reports. We'll start with Administrator Wary, followed by Township Attorney Desiderio. Our amazing clerk is not with us tonight, but we do have our Deputy Clerk, Amari Alat, with us. Reports from elected officials, as we don't have Deputy Mayor Engel, as is listed on the agenda. We will start with Committee Member Adams, followed by Committee Member DeLuca, followed by Committee Member Cripe. I always go last. We have two discussion items. I will lead us through both of those. We will talk about overnight parking in the township in general, and we will refer to a redevelopment opportunity on Springfield Avenue. And then we have our consent agenda, items 14A through 14L as previously published. And that brings us to our second and final public comment period for any subject matter. All right, so let's get into it before we enter into the official matters of the agenda tonight. Of course, we need to take a moment to honor the life, the incredible, remarkable life, truly legendary, a giant in public service in New Jersey, the one and only Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, whom we lost earlier this morning, earlier today. So I have a couple of remarks I wanted to enter into the record. I think some of these, these remarks have been already published in the press here locally. We join everyone across the state in mourning the profound loss of Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, a trailblazing and pioneering public servant, a fearless and unwavering strong voice for the poor, the houseless, voiceless, the under and unrepresented. She accomplished so much, died too soon. Smart, funny, savvy, sassy, yet kind, bold, though sensitive, passionate, yet strategic and thoughtful. She successfully fought for and paved the way for real progress on those values we still hold so dear in our communities throughout New Jersey, especially here in Soma, Mapso. Affordable housing, supportive housing, homelessness prevention, childcare, healthcare, social and economic justice. As the commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, the other hat that she wore, in addition to being our lieutenant governor, she valued strong partnerships with local governments and expanded the availability and quality of municipal resources. She was a friend to Soma, personally stepping in to help Maplewood and South Orange reach our final stretch in the merger of our two fire departments. And a little bit on the personal note, as a member of the DCA family, I had the honor of working with Lieutenant Governor Oliver closely. She was especially supportive of my work in building diversion and pretrial intervention in the landlord-tenant courts and expanding access to counsel to thousands of low-income residents threatened with displacement and homelessness. She always had our backs with the legislature. She knew what that was like. She served there on related budget issues or policy. And when she spoke up, everyone listened. She stood with the queer community way before other Democrats did. She was one of the first outspoken in support of marriage equality. And she often called us on our own blind spots as our LGBTQ plus advocacy left queer women of color behind. I asked her once what the secret to her success was. She simply answered, being true to myself. I have found clarity and confidence in her wisdom many times. While we will miss her deeply, the best way to honor her, I think, is to keep moving her advocacy forward for equity and fairness and opportunity and dignity for all. Let's take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I want to offer the opportunity to my colleagues to make any remarks. Committee member DeLuca among us here in this modest group. You knew her really, really well and the longest. If you care to share a few thoughts, you don't need to, but we welcome you if you'd like to.
I think you summed it up well. I would just say, I've known her over 40 years. We worked together in Newark on a number of issues, and she was always true to herself. So may you rest in peace, Sheila.
Anyone else from the Township Committee? All right, thank you. May she rest in peace, and our condolences go to her family and friends throughout. We also have another honor of another life well lived. The beloved mom of our the incomparable Township Clerk, Liz Fritzen. Liz isn't with us tonight because she lost her mom at the amazing age of 96. The amazing Gloria Simpson. She lost her over the weekend. Her mom was in hospice and in ailing health, and she hung in there as long as she could, and she finally said that she was ready to move on. So I'd like to read into the record a beautiful obituary. We're doing this for Liz, and we're doing it for her mom. Gloria Simpson was a longtime Springfield resident, and she passed away at Inglemore Care Center in Livingston this past weekend. She was 96. She was born in New York City. She graduated from George Washington High in the Inwood section of Manhattan. She worked for the Springfield Township Police Department as a records clerk for 43 years, and she had various capacities within the department. She's most known for her lifetime of service to the residents of Springfield as a lifetime member of the Springfield First Aid Squad. For 60 years, she served as president, lieutenant, secretary of the squad. She has also served in the New Jersey State EMS Council, having held the position of second district vice president. For her service, she has been awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award from the New Jersey State EMS Council, the Overlook Hospital Excellence in EMS Award, and the Springfield Chamber of Commerce EMS Award. She saved countless lives and administered EMS care to total strangers as an EMS volunteer. She was a member of the St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Milburn. Gloria was the beloved wife to the late Herbert Simpson. She was the loving mother, as I said, to our dear Liz Fritzen, cherished grandmother to Patrick Fritzen and Heather Fritzen, devoted great-grandmother of Patrick Jr. and Jason. She's also survived by her four-legged grandbaby, the one and only Gemma that we all adore. In terms of the upcoming arrangements, this Friday and Saturday, they will be held at the funeral home of Bradley Smith and Smith, which is located at 415 Morris Avenue in Springfield Township. There will be visitation hours on Friday, August 4th from 4 to 8 p.m. at Bradley Smith and Smith, and the funeral services will be held at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Milburn. That's 119 Main Street in Milburn on Saturday, August 5th at 10 a.m. An interment will follow the service at St. Stephen's Cemetery in Milburn. Let's take a moment to honor Gloria. Thank you. Sending lots of love and hugs and thoughts and prayers to Liz and her family during this difficult time. So if you, if you listen to that obituary, you know where Liz gets it from, right? Amazing life, remarkable life her mom had. And remember, she did these things at a time when there weren't women serving as EMS, right? Another trailblazer. Two amazing female trailblazers tonight, two incredible lives well lived. All right, so we will now turn over to committee member DeLuca, who will move the appointment of Catherine Vitali Joanne Beckrich, Ted Dorsett, Michael Lusardo, Kelly McGaughy, and Karen Rome. I apologize if I mispronounced anyone's name. Mr. DeLuca?
I move the community emergency response team, the 6 people you named.
I'll second it.
Ms. Adams,
Yes, of course.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes,
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Clerk Allah. So now we're turning over to the 2 appointments to the Fields Committee. We have 2 amazing residents who are willing to serve, Mr. Callahan and Mr. Sullivan. I'm going to turn it over to Committee Member Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. Was Mr. Callahan able to make it tonight? I didn't see him in the participants room.
I'm looking as well. I see Mr. Sullivan, who has moved over to panelist, but I don't see Mr. Callahan.
Okay.
I think we should move forward.
All right. Well, being that I'm also the rep on the Recreation Advisory Committee, I can speak for his behalf and say that he is very interested in this position. As you know, we've been having conversations around fields and various things over the years, and nothing really has taken off. So hopefully this committee, because it's made up of shareholders within our separate committees, as well as different teams and organizations around town, that this will be something that will help us better guide our actions in the future with our uses our field. Mr. Sullivan is a longtime Maplewood resident, comparative to not Liz and other people, that we've been here probably a decade or so more. And as a member of the Hilton Neighborhood Association, he would be an excellent fit for this committee. If you don't know John, he is a very outspoken, but a very knowledgeable individual who puts his energy into learning the facts before making statements or any kind of movements forward. So I believe that character that he brings to his work in his field, as well as the work he does within the community and the neighborhood association, will be an asset to this Fields Committee. Also, as someone who lives in the Hilton neighborhood, he will help make sure that the voices of those people who live in the neighborhood will be well heard and well represented. So I would like to move that. I'd like to actually let John speak for himself for a minute, if he would like, to say why he would like to serve on the Fields Committee.
You've covered it all. Just briefly, my wife and I and 3 daughters, we've been Maplewood residents now going on 23 years, lived in the Hilton neighborhood for about 17 of those years. I've been involved in the Hilton Neighborhood Association, involved with the Maplewood Democrats. I'm really interested in moving forward with, getting this group off the ground. A few years back, there was an issue. A committee was formed, but never really got off the ground. And it looks as if this is going to be making some progress, and I'm looking forward to it. This evening at the National Night Out, it was a great use of the Hart Park. There were, and I got to meet some of the new CERT members, which was good to see them out, I believe, at their first public event since, well, they were officially appointed today. But yeah, it's, the police officers and Township Committee did a great job. And I look forward to serving the committee and the Hilton Neighborhood Association. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sullivan in regards to his appointment to this committee?
I'll
No?
second the motion if you made a motion.
I move that we appoint John Sullivan as the Hilton Neighborhood Rep on the Fields Committee.
I will second that motion.
Ms. Adams,
Ms.
Yes.
Ms.
Thanks,
Wright,
Bob.
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
yes,
Mayor Daffis.
Yes.
Motion
you.
passes.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you,
do-
sir.
I know you normally sit in all these meetings, so you're welcome to stay.
So,
Mayor, I
Um,
apologize. Are we not appointing the other gentleman?
I was about to say, ask that question. Mr. Callahan, did you want to move forward with Mr. Callahan, despite his not being here tonight? I think we
I
can do
did.
that.
I was going to do it separately just because he's not here.
Okay, go ahead. Make the motion.
I move that Brian Callahan be appointed as the Recreation Advisory Committee rep for the Fields Committee.
I'll second your motion.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Kripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes,
And Mayor Dapis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Callahan. Okay, so this is the first public comment of two for agenda items only. I'm going to turn it over to Administrator Wary to administer the public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. If any members of the public would like to speak, please raise your hand on the web version or press *9 on the phone, and we will move you over to panelists. Mayor, I see nobody.
Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comment portion for agenda items only and move over to the Board of Health meeting. I believe we have our health officer ready to go. Health Officer Candace Davenport, let me read the public statement and segue into the Board of Health meeting. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, this is state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2022 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2021, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams?
Here.
Ms. Kripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
here,
Mayor Dapis?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231 PL 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas it is the desire of this governing body to comply with the provision of this act and at the same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood that it does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberation of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to observation of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
so moved.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
I said yes. I don't think you heard me.
Ms. Kripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes,
Mayor Dapis?
Yes.
Motion pass.
Thank you, sir. I move the approval of the meeting minutes from our July 5th BOH meeting.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Kripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
yes,
Mayor Dapis?
Yes.
Motion pass.
Thank you again. Turning it over to our health officer, Candace Davenport. Welcome. Oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, super. Thank you so much. I'm just going to share my screen here for a second. Are you all able to see the screen?
We are.
Super, thank you. And are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So just want to start off with the Mayor's Wellness Campaign. Just want to highlight that Walk with the Mayor and the Township Committee will take place this month on two dates, August 5th in DeHart Park and August 13th in Memorial Park. Hope you can join our township officials there and have a nice exercise and walk, and also to talk about things that interest you in the town. Also want to highlight that in September, on September 30th, we'll be having our community health fair at Maple Crest Park, where we'll be offering free health screenings, free food and activities, and it's open to all. So hopefully everyone will be able to join us. It'll be a great event. Please put on your calendars. As we are recovering now, we have great weather today and the next week, but we have experienced and will sadly probably continue to experience throughout the years heat-related illnesses with this increasing weather. So as your health officer, I wanted to pass along some information from the CDC and the State Health Department regarding prevention of heat-related illnesses. So we have this information on our website as well as on the presentation, which will be on our website, to assist people with doing certain things like being aware of hot cars, not to leave any pets, domestic animals, or children in the back seat. Avoid the hottest parts of the day, check on our neighbors, stay hydrated, and stay informed. We also want to keep an eye out for our outdoor workers, that they reduce the amount of time that they are exposed in weather where it is above 90 degrees or higher. This is our animal control report from the Township of Bloomfield for the month of July. We had 21 calls last month. Most of them were wildlife. We had 7 domestic, 14 wildlife, and 4 after-hours calls. I do want to highlight that the health department REHS staff, which is your registered environmental health specialist staff, addressed 5 dog bites in July. In that sense, we got reports from the hospital that notified us of dog bites, and our nurse and our staff, our RHS staff, investigated and put the dogs in quarantine and made sure that they were all vaccinated for rabies and had a dog license if they were in Maplewood. For our nursing report in July, just wanted to highlight something that our public health nursing supervisor, Anna Markarova, didn't get to say when she gave our presentation last month, was that between May and July, we did 120 adult health screenings, which is incredible for us. She conducted them at our adult wellness fair, as well as the health screenings at our senior apartments. So we're really making an effort to outreach, and people are taking notice and enjoying them. So we give our thanks to the Township community for supporting us and our administration. Reportable diseases investigated are 7. Just want to highlight that most of these were foodborne illnesses, most of them related to travel, not to any restaurants in the area. COVID-19 cases investigated are usually related to outbreaks, and luckily we're not having a lot of those, so we just had 1. And our nursing staff provided homebound vaccines to 2 homebound residents. In case anyone is still looking for a vaccine, we still want to highlight the efforts of Essex County with their mobile health clinic to provide COVID-19 primary doses or primary dose and booster doses for all ages that are eligible. They move around, so I just want to highlight that some are in Newark, Irvington, Orange, Cedar Grove. So if you can't find a spot, they're in other areas, and hopefully they'll be convenient to people. And also just to notify everyone that we are still thankfully in low hospitals transmission or admission levels for COVID statewide. Moving on to environmental health. We conducted 13 restaurant inspections, including 2 pre-operation inspections. That means that there's 2 new restaurants coming on board in Maplewood. We did 8 mobile food truck inspections. That's reflective of all of our great outdoor events and programming. 38 complaints and notice of violations was 6. 4 of them were abated and summonses were 4. I just want to highlight that on the Township consent agenda, there's resolution 260-23, which is an agreement that we will have with Essex Regional Health Commission, of which we are a member of the commission, for interim registered environmental health specialist services, which is needed while we are still looking for a full-time REHS to help us on staff. So thank you for that. I know we've spoken about this before, just like with ticks, but I do want to highlight again that spotted lanternfly has been spotted throughout the region, including in Maplewood. You'll see them not only on the Tree of Life, but sadly on other native plants and trees. So we really want to get rid of the spotted lanternfly that could damage a lot of our trees, some of them even historical trees. So please stomp them out if you see a spotted lanternfly in our area. It is the time of the year when they do come out. Moving on to social services and mental health. Just want to highlight that Essex Regional Health Commission received a state grant to study opioid overdoses. And one of the things that they did out of this grant from the State Health Department was to create educational information, which we have put into the harm reduction kits that we've created for the PD and the fire department. We put this information in there. It is how to recognize signs of a drug overdose, as well as information that people may not know about, in that we want people to call 911 in the event of an emergency, especially a health-related emergency where someone might be overdosing. People may not realize that even if they have paraphernalia, like needles on their person, they will not be prosecuted for that if you're calling because someone with you is experiencing a health emergency. So we really want people to utilize 911 and our emergency services in the event that someone is overdosing. As you might recall, in our harm reduction kits, we provide an extra 2 sets of Narcan. There's 2 per box, Band-Aids, hand sanitizer, this information, as well as fentanyl test strips. So just want to say a thank you to our PD and FD and the State Health Department Harm Reduction Coalition for their efforts in helping us pull that all together. Also, just want to highlight again this great resource from the New Jersey Department of Human Services, which provides statewide phone numbers, 1-800 phone numbers for assistance in all different types of social services. You can also call our office and speak with our local health outreach coordinator, Sarah Taylor, who can give also localized resources for a lot of these social services. So wanted to put that out there for our residents in case anybody needs these services. Also, in terms of food insecurity, I do want to highlight that the county offers monthly community grocery giveaways, which take place in Newark. The next one is coming up August 17th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. The phone number and the address for where these are being provided are at the bottom of the flyer. Again, these will be on our presentation. So we hope that people who are in need may take advantage of this as we work together with the county to address food insecurity. As for the community fridge, just wanted to highlight the updates for the community fridge. We have worked and are working with the United Community Corporation. Thank you to Mayor Daffis for making that connection. United Community Corporation actually runs 5 community fridges. And so with their expertise, they are now in Maplewood providing daily food delivery Monday through Saturday between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And they are providing food, produce, as they would in the other 5 locations. And it's going very well. People are learning to know when the schedule is. They come get their food, they're very appreciative, and then they leave. So that's really great to have that consistent providership, which is exactly what we needed. As an update, the door for the community fridge is soon to be installed, hopefully by the end of this month or maybe even mid-month. Then at that point, when the door is installed, the new hours of community fridge operation will be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. when it'll be open, and then closed from 8 p.m. onward to the next morning. The parking lot, thank you to the Maplewood PD, has been closed on both sides of that parking lot. Thank you to them, and they close it just to provide some boundaries of this area is closed, kind of gives that indication that the space is not to be used during that time. And DPW, thank you to them so much for always cleaning the fridge, but also they plan to install new metal shelves, which UCC had recommended based on their experiences with other community fridges in order to keep the longevity of our spaces against the weather. So they said metal shelves were highly recommended. Lastly, our new local health outreach coordinator, Sarah Taylor, also found this information for eyesight and vision screenings with Project BEST. BEST standing for Better Eye Health Services and Treatment. As you know, one of the things aside from harm reduction is injury prevention as another focus for the health department. And if you didn't realize this, because I didn't really articulate it as well as Sarah did in this PowerPoint presentation, that vision loss is really a public health problem because 50% of all cases of blindness or severe vision loss could have been prevented with proper eye care. But without proper eye care, unfortunately, our older adults are at higher risk for falls and injuries, social isolation, reduced quality of life, and difficulty in following instructions related to health and their medications. So if we are looking at the longevity of our seniors, longevity of our residents, we want to make this available to them should they not have access to an optometrist or don't have access to healthcare coverage for eye exams. They provide services for all age groups. So we encourage people to take advantage of that. If you need assistance with getting to the locations in Newark, which are highlighted on the bottom right of the screen, we do have New Jersey Transit bus tickets for children and adults if you need assistance with getting to these locations. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Health Officer Davenport. At this point, we offer the Township Committee members an opportunity to ask questions. Any discussion, any questions? Okay, I have one quick follow-up question. I know that in addition to our partnering with United Community in the fridge,
Mayor, your audio is.
He's frozen.
on and do well. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Did you hear the question, Ms. Davenport?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
unfortunately, you cut out.
You froze up.
I froze up. That
Yeah.
never happens. Okay.
It was the
All right.
community refrigerator.
Yeah,
Frozen.
yeah. Right. The question relates to updating us as it relates to your working with the Friends of the Fridge, the community surrounding the fridge that have adopted it as their own. They want to see it going.
Thank you so much for reminding me to add to that. So later on this week, Mr. Wary, myself, members of the community, Friends of the Community Fridge, and UCC, as well as folks from the Elks Club who are in charge of their vegetable garden over there, will be meeting on Thursday morning to discuss how we can coordinate the distribution of all these great resources and the donations in coordination with UCC and their consistent schedule. So really what we want to do for the community fridge and for the residents is to provide consistent, reliable food that they know will be there and not overlap, so that there's not a surplus and avoid a dearth of food at the same time. So hopefully with all of these partners working together, we can make that happen.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And if there are no questions or additional remarks by any committee member Craig?
Yeah, I meant to ask, I haven't gone all the way through, but has the senior guide received those graphics that you have for not only the vision assistance, but the food assistance? I know they just released the document.
They did, and let me just highlight the senior resource guide, which we have available. Yay. And our Two Towns for All Ages coordinator can mail them to residents. It's chock full of fantastic information. Over the last couple of years, we've really honed in on what people want to know about and just really good resources for them. So, and it's large font, so it's easy for seniors to read. So we hope people take advantage of it. And actually, as with any good thing, this needs to be reiterated again to add stuff like Project BEST. So Sarah is a really great asset for our health department because she's finding these resources that even we didn't even know about. So we hope to get that in there, and we'll add a version 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to point out that Ms. Davenport is utilizing her standing desk this evening. Good
I
job.
love it. I need one of those. Thank you. And the new guide looks fantastic. I saw it earlier today. Well done on that. I know that was a lot of work. And of course, as soon as we publish one of those, it's outdated the following day, right? All right. Okay. So at this point, we will invite the public to address the Board of Health. Are there members of the public who wish to address the Board of Health, ask any questions? Please raise your hand. I do not see any members of the public who wish to address the Board of Health. So we will close the public comment portion, and I move that we adjourn and meet again on September 5th.
Second.
All
Second.
right.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, moving on. Ordinances on final passage, none. Introduction of ordinances, item number 9 on the agenda, 9A, ordinance 3098-23.
An ordinance to direct the installation of stop signs on Summit Avenue at its intersection with Midland Boulevard. The interpretive statement is this ordinance will direct the installation of stop signs in both directions of Summit Avenue at its intersection with Midland Boulevard.
Get a motion?
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on September 5th, 2023.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
it passes.
Next ordinance, item 9B, 3099-23.
An ordinance prohibiting parking within 5 feet of a public or private driveway on Villa Terrace. This ordinance will prohibit parking within 5 feet of a public or private driveway on Villa Terrace. Can I have a motion?
Mayor, I just want to make one statement. There was I think there may be some confusion on the residents about this only applying Monday through Saturday, but I looked at the ordinance and this is a 7-day-a-week ordinance. So
Yep.
On that, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on September 5th, 2023.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
it passes.
Thank you. And we can make that clear again, committee member DeLuca, during the public hearing on the 5th. Item 9C, ordinance 3100-23.
An ordinance changing the time limit parking on Villa Terrace from 3 hours to 2 hours. This ordinance will change the time limit parking on Villa Terrace from 3 hours to 2 hours. Can I have a motion?
Again, this is a 7-day-a-week change here. I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on September 5th, 2023.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
it
And
passes.
finally, thank you. And finally, item 9D, ordinance 3101-23.
An ordinance to amend chapter 187 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Outdoor Dining. This ordinance will establish a fee of $150 per year for the securing of an outdoor cafe license and will require the removal of all equipment used in the outdoor cafe during a declared state of emergency or at the direction of the Township Office of Emergency Management.
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on September 5th.
I second the motion.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
it passes.
Thank you. I move that we extend our meeting beyond 9:30. I think we're going to need it.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
No, I'm just kidding. Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
motion passes.
Committee member Adams is making sure we're all still awake. Okay, so administrative reports, we'll start with our administrator, Mr. Wary.
Thank you, Mayor. Two items to report on. First, to highlight some employment opportunities we have with the township. I'll list them off. We are currently hiring a program supervisor in the rec department, a registered environmental health specialist in the health office, school crossing guards, a superintendent of public works, and a technical assistant to the construction official, as well as a revenue administrative assistant in finance. So all of those jobs are currently being advertised. We encourage anybody who's a qualified individual, or if you know somebody, please encourage them to apply. And we look forward to having a good group of applicants to consider. The second update is regarding the budget. As you are aware, our budget cannot be reviewed by the state until they receive our annual financial statement, and the annual financial statement cannot be completed until our finance department finishes their reconciliations from the 2022 year. That has taken them longer than expected, but the good news is that those reconciliations have been completed. And I spoke to our auditor today, who confirmed that they would now finish the AFS tomorrow, at which time it will be submitted to the state. So the process after the AFS submission, the state will review our budget and they'll review our AFS. The state then submits back to us their findings, which are either changes that they've noted in the introduced budget or requests for more information. Once that happens, we incorporate those changes along with any of our own amendments to a budget amendment, which is to be considered by the committee. And once that is considered, then we can then adopt the budget. And the budget amendment and the budget adoption will be held over two separate public meetings. The good news as well, or this is a good time to mention, that we're still committed to holding our tax rate increase to 3.5%. So none of the important pieces of the budget have changed. And the other good note is that with the auditor finishing their AFS, they already know what we're going to generate for fund balance this year. So we, as a result of 2022 operations, we regenerated $2.9 million, and we're using $2.1 million of that as revenue in this year's budget. So that means that we're growing our savings by $800,000, which is a great thing. It's been a goal of the township to increase that fund balance, and it's something that we were successful in doing in 2022. So those are good news to report. Given that this is the only scheduled committee meeting for this month, and given the importance of the budget amendments, I recommend to the committee that we wait until the next regularly scheduled meeting of September 5th to introduce those budget amendments. And then we would have the budget adoption on September 19th. And we would be prepared to make a full budget presentation at that September 5th meeting if the committee would like.
Yes and yes. How do others feel?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and fingers crossed that.
Good and
we will,
good.
Yeah, great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Wary?
That is all.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Wary from the Township Committee? Okay, thank you again. Township Attorney Desiderio, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report this evening.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Desiderio? All right, thank you, Mr. Desiderio. And Deputy Clerk Allah.
I have a very short report. As most people know, townships collect a lot of applications and paperwork, and unfortunately, we have to hold on to those applications and paperwork for 3 to 5, sometimes even 10 years. So working with Liz and also our YouthNet intern, Parker Schubert, we have been working slowly but surely on digitizing our ordinances, our resolutions, our minutes in the first phase of starting to not only cut down on our paper, but also have it accessible to the public. We're also digitizing more of our applications, like we digitized the parking and jitney pass. And once the budget passes, we hope to also make it so people can pay online and not just have to do check or money order or cash. And hopefully next year's budget, we're going to have it where we can start digitizing some of our long-term applications, which we have to hold for 5 and 10 years, so that with the state's approval, we could have a digitized version and then destroy the paper version to not only save space, but also utilize that space potentially for other things.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk Alon. We appreciate all of the improvements that you're making in our processes in the clerk's office. Are there any questions for Deputy Clerk Alon? Okay, then we're going to segue into reports from elected officials. Committee Member Adams, you go first.
I have no report, Mayor. I've been wanting to say that for a while.
All right, thank you. Committee Member DeLuca.
I have no report tonight.
All right, Committee Member Cripe.
Oh, I was so close to being a three-peat, but we had National Night Out tonight. So as far as the police department, I want to thank them for all the efforts they put in, and the members of the community who were able to make it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it. I got trapped at work, but I heard lots of great comments and I got lots of great pictures sent to me from many different groups, not only our senior population, but some of the young families and for other law enforcement officers in there. Congratulations to the members of our police force that were honored tonight with recognition, as Mayor Daffis mentioned in his opening statements. And finally, a big congratulations to our members of YouthNet who are working as interns in and around Maplewood for the second summer in a row. So far, the program is going very, very well, and we're looking forward to getting feedback from the different youth and departments. And in the future, if there is any local business or any organization that would like to have a young person be shadowing them for a month in the summer months, please don't hesitate to reach out to YouthNet, and that is at youthnet.net. It's fairly easy to reach. That is my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Committee Member Cripe. Nice report. I only have one item very quickly. I just want to update the community that we are, just like we are working with a nonprofit organization to make things better at our community fridge, we are also working with a nonprofit agency that has special expertise in homelessness prevention to see how we can better serve our houseless population. What started as 1 or 2 people when I came onto the Township Committee 6 years ago has mushroomed to about a little over a dozen. We have about 13 houseless folks in our community. This is something that other towns are seeing. In urban towns, it's a lot more. In other suburban towns, about the same. And these are the 13 people that we know about. The way homelessness works is that there are many others who are also homeless who are not as visible. So we're speaking to nonprofit agencies who can conduct street outreach for supportive services and intake and screening for care and long-term housing strategies with individuals that are houseless. And I will update the committee and the public as soon as we have more details about that. But I think that if we are who we say we are, we really need to do all that we can to help those experiencing homelessness in our community. Some of them are people who lived here and grew up here and fell on hard times, and others who came here from a neighboring community, just like we have those who are homeless from our town in another town. Homelessness has no boundaries, no borders. Part of our discussions with nonprofit agencies that do this work statewide is also to engage in strategies and conversations with the county. The county has a lot of resources. The county has a lot of money, and we need to really seriously look at how we can partner with them. What we currently do, what every town currently does that is not sustainable any longer, is we just, when we see someone, we go there, we speak kindly, and we say, call 211, go to the county. That's just not a sustainable model. The county is overwhelmed, and no one wants to go to some of the existing shelters that are frankly violent and not safe for women or for men. So we're working on it. I make that pledge. And I want those out there in the community who are worried about this not to be worried. We're going to work this out. and to just be kind. It costs nothing to be kind. And there's nothing to worry about. Yes, a couple of folks may have some mental health issues, and that's another reason to have a street outreach, get them to supportive care as soon as possible. So that's my update. Thank you. Discussion items. The first one, item 13A, is overnight parking. I'm not really asking for action tonight because I think we need to talk about this a little bit more. It's got to go to code, come back here. But I want to flag it as something that I hear about frequently, more than I used to. We have an existing overnight policy. You can't park overnight on the street between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Especially in areas where where you have access to a driveway or a garage to park in. And that works, right, for a lot of town, but we're starting to hear from a lot of folks on particular streets that are narrow and crowded, especially in those places where driveways are not available. While there's some exceptions to this rule, and we're good about that, we're starting to hear from multifamily residents who may be living with, who are renters, who may be living with the landlord in the same dwelling, the landlord not making the driveway or the garage accessible to them. And so they have to park on the street and then they get a ticket. We're hearing, there are a lot of people who reached out to me who are new residents about this. Most notably, I've heard from a couple of new residents to Maplewood who have suffered, who are dealing with this over on Lombardi. We know about Lombardi. It's not a surprise. So what are we doing about it? I think we have to start thinking about this and figuring out how we can provide relief to these folks on Lombardi, and to just talk about overnight parking in general. When I was campaigning in the primary earlier this year, I heard about overnight parking not being equitable everywhere in Maplewood from people who live deep in the eastern part of town. They feel they're being treated differently than other places. Again, these are areas where the streets are very narrow. There aren't driveways, or they're very, very narrow driveways, and two-way traffic as well. And so it creates inconveniences and inequities. And I'd like to, with all the smart people here, figure out a solution and maybe revisit our policy from long ago. That's it. No action. More to be discussed coming attractive.
Mayor,
Go
I'd
ahead,
like to, if I could just say, so I just want to put out there, you know, I saw this on the agenda, wasn't sure what we were talking about, but I just want to caution us. This is, you know, it's a public safety issue here. You know, it goes a long way in keeping cars off the street. People coming here steal cars off the street. Please see that there's no cars. It's also for cleaning, snow plowing, things like that. Additionally, you know, equity goes a lot of different ways. We have approved a lot of apartments on the eastern side of town with limited parking. And if we were to do away with the overnight parking restriction, there's people in Maplewood Crossing and 255 Tuscan and even on Van Ness Court that will end up parking their cars on streets, just like we're having an ongoing discussion and changing the ordinances earlier on Villa Terrace. We're going to have that all over the town. And you know, it's ironic that the next item is talking about a development on Springfield Avenue, that if we were to do that 1-for-1 parking, which we're going to be talking about, my fear is that the landlord would have no responsibility. Somebody rents, they get one spot there, they have a second car, they're going to park on Vermont Street, they're going to park on Hilton Avenue, on Franklin, and that's not fair either. I think it works. I think many of our public policy decisions have been made. Now, on the, I'm not exactly sure what the issue is on Lombardi, but if there's a landlord who's renting out an apartment, that landlord should be forced to provide a parking spot, just like we do for a developer. We require them to provide a parking spot. If they have a driveway, if they're using their driveway and not letting other people use it, that's wrong, and we should deal with it and force landlords to provide that parking. But I would be very much opposed to doing away with the overnight parking restrictions. I think it just shifts the burden from landlords and tenants to people. And I'll tell you, I have somebody who doesn't have a driveway, they have a permit, and that car sits out there a lot, and that's fine. They're entitled to do that. But, when the street cleaner comes by, it always has to go around it because that car never moves. And I want us to be very cautious before we jump into this.
Yes, understood. Caution, understood. I mean, we don't want to create unintended consequences, and I didn't put this on here to in any way say that we want to get rid of overnight parking that we have. I understand the public safety and other issues that you raised, and thanks for the context. But I do think that we have a problem, right? So how do we enforce this against landlords? What is our enforcement power?
I think that could be something like you mentioned, to go to code committee to kind of flesh it out. And it may need to involve some engineering, public works, planning committee, and police, public safety. So, but I do think there's a way. I mean, we've reduced the required parking, not just in the planning board, but sort of as public policy in the township for the last several years with regard to development projects, in the effort, of course, to encourage fewer cars and more pedestrian and bicycle use, right, or mass transit. So it becomes that rough balancing act, but to become less reliant on cars. So, I think we have to kind of mull this over a little bit at our different committees where we can, not bore the public while we, brainstorm, which is what it's good for.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. And that's why I bring it up for further discussion in appropriate subcommittees, and if necessary, coming back to the township committee. It's something that is coming up more and more than it used to before. And as we adopt a new master plan, which highly recommends expanding our multifamily zoning in town, this will be an issue that's related to that, right? If we do that, so something for us to definitely have on our radar. All right.
Right.
So the second discussion item is 13B. I believe that we have a member of the public who's going to be part of this discussion with us, Mr. Gold, and he may have a couple folks. If we can bring them over, Mr. Wary, as panelists, I'll tee this off. Please let me know when you've done that.
Oh, yes. I also have Mike Bruno, who should be in the group.
Wonderful. I'll get to you in a minute, Mr. Gold, and your guests. Thank you for being with us tonight. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about 1647-1649 Springfield Avenue and 1653 Springfield Avenue and 8 Vermont Street, which is a property that abuts in the back of these two other properties. This is a redevelopment opportunity that came to our attention. With the exception of 8 Vermont Street, those properties, 1647 through 1649 and 1653, are part of an existing redevelopment area plan there on Springfield Avenue. And we have with us the owner purchaser under contract of these properties, who's going to walk us through his plans there. The ask tonight is twofold for the Township Committee. One, to designate this owner redeveloper as the redeveloper designee in this mixed use development opportunity. And with respect to 8 Vermont Street, since it's not part of the existing redevelopment plan there, to also see if there's interest by the Township Committee to move forward to ask our planner, Paul Greigel, to amend the redevelopment plan to add 8 Vermont Street to the redevelopment. All right. And we have with us the owner purchaser, Mr. Ken Gold, who I will ask to introduce himself and tell us about his plans. I believe he has his attorney. And we have, of course, our attorney, Township Attorney Desideri. Mr. Desideri, did you want to add anything to this before?
I just want to make a statement. I've known Mr. Gold for many, many years. His father is my law partner and has been for probably 20 years. So I just want to make that statement. To the extent that the Township Committee is going to move forward, we will be retaining Development Counsel to represent the interests of the township, and I will not be directly involved with those types of negotiations. But obviously, I will be overseeing it. But I just want to make that disclosure. And Mr. Gold and I have some very interesting discussions about baseball. So, Mr. Gold, go right ahead.
If you weren't going to say it, Roger, I was. So,
Okay, very
Mr.
good.
Gold, before you jump in there, thank you, Mr. Desideri. I'm going to invite committee member DeLuca if he wanted to add anything about the redevelopment plan, the existing redevelopment plan in this area.
Thank you, Mayor. So the existing redevelopment plan, it's redevelopment area 3. And it allows for multifamily with apartments on top, commercial on the bottom. When we did this site, we did not include the 1 home, 8 Vermont, but it is part of the property of one of the property owners on Springfield Avenue that's being considered here, I think 1653. So it makes sense to take a look at this. Mr. Gold contacted us. He's a local guy, and he's expressed an interest in doing this, and we've met with him a couple times, and this looks like something that would really work for us.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, with that, Mr. Gold, please introduce yourself, tell us about yourself, and as everyone has already noted, you have strong Maplewood ties, and talk about what you plan to do here. I think you may have a visual so that the public can better understand what we're talking about here, which properties.
yeah. So I believe it was Mr. Sullivan before that was just put on that committee that was talking about being here for 23 years. My parents have lived in Maplewood since 1981. I am a Columbia High School graduate of 2004, a Maplewood Middle graduate of 2000. Maplewood is near and dear to my heart. My parents still live there. You can see my dad every morning at the Bagel Chateau, literally every morning. So my firm is called Inspired by Somerset Development. We've been in business for about 30 years, which predates me. The owner and principal of the company is a man by the name of Ralph Zucker. He is very well known in the state as a redeveloper of the Bell Works project down in Holmdel, New Jersey, the redevelopment of the old Bell Labs. It's a 2 million square foot office redevelopment, mixed use, retail, hospitality, residential. We have also redeveloped the Somerville parking lot, Somerville Station parking lot, worked with New Jersey Transit. There's now 500 units on that site. We redeveloped the old Curtis Wright plant in Woodridge, New Jersey. Was originally a parking lot in the building where in the Curtis Wright factory where the engines for the Enola Gay were built. We have redeveloped that parking lot into 1,500 units. Why? We do very large projects. We are a very well-known, reputable developer in the state. Why Maplewood? Again, is because of my connections here and growing up playing baseball at Maple Crest Park with the rec leagues that I've heard being talked about earlier tonight. I found this project. We closed on the site on one of the lots, and I will share the screen now so you can see exactly what we're talking about. Everyone sees this? Okay. So the Hertz site, we closed we purchased on June 30th, just about 30 days ago. 8 Vermont, we were hoping to close on today, actually, but my lender told me that they needed a couple more days, so it will be this week. 1651 and 1653, I am contract purchaser to close on that site once we have full approvals for the prospective development. As you can see, 8 Vermont is sort of in the back. The owner of 8 Vermont also owns 1651 and 1653, so that's why this is sort of working the way that it is. It is not part of the redevelopment plan, but as you can see, it is pretty much essential in creating a workable lot. And also by having 8 Vermont involved, we can keep more retail in this project, and frankly, keep more of it on Springfield Ave. It also creates an additional parking space on the street because we won't have access off 8 Vermont. Right now, we are projecting that we can fit about 40 units on here, of which 6 will be designated for affordable housing with the 15% set aside for the COA obligations for the town. Again, it's a 3-story unit, a 3-story building over retail, so it's 4 stories tall. The ground floor will be parking. We are looking for some amendments to the redevelopment plan because as was mentioned earlier, this plan is very old and it's not really fitting with today's market as what, how buildings are being built today. And so I'm asking that the 8 Vermont be included and so that we can also fit the parking necessary to build this building. I've worked with Mike Bruno on, I don't know, Mike, how long we're working together now? 7, 8 years. Mike has been involved in all of our redevelopments. He's one of the premier redevelopment attorneys in the state. And so, Mike, I'll ask you, how feasible you think it is to make these amendments and what you think is necessary here.
Thanks, Ken. Good evening, Mayor and members of the committee. Nice to meet you all via Zoom. Yeah, so a couple of requests. The first request would be the designation of Somerset Maplewood LLC as the designated redeveloper of the properties that are called the Hertz site in 1651-53 Springfield Avenue. We're making that request, and then what we would propose thereafter is to submit a redevelopment plan amendment for your consideration, and I guess Paul Greigel would review it and give you his recommendations, so that the project that is proposed, although it fits within what you're looking for the redevelopment plan on the property, some of the standards are a little bit different now that what developers are building. So that's what Ken is referring to, amendments in that, and Ken, you might be able to give a little bit more detail at some point on that. The second request in connection with amendments would be the expansion of the redevelopment area to include 8 Vermont, and that would require Paul Greigel to do an analysis of the lawfulness of that expansion. We've looked at it and we think it's integral to the success of the redevelopment. It enhances a lot of what you're looking for, which is the commercial on Springfield Avenue, and then creates the residential behind it. So we think it fits perfectly and would be lawful under the local redevelopment and housing law. With the designation by the town of Somerset Maplewood, we could create a 2-step process if your attorney thought that was appropriate. One would be a conditional designation, pursuant to which we would be conditionally designated, and then that would become final once a redevelopers agreement was entered into. And with that conditional designation, we could fund an escrow account to pay for all of the town's professionals in furtherance of the request that we're making this evening, which is both the plan amendment as well as the redevelopment area designation expansion to 8 Vermont. So all of the town's costs could be lawfully covered in the creation of an escrow account to fund your professionals' Paul Greigel and your attorney, your redevelopment attorney in this regard. So that in a nutshell is the request. And I don't know if you want to give any more detail on some of the things that are a little bit antiquated in the redevelopment plan that you'd like to update, or how you want to handle that part of it.
Yeah, well, it's sort of a sore subject, which was the parking, as we led into, as Vic had alluded to. This parking requirement here on this site is 1.5 to 1 in the current plan. That's just not what we're seeing in today's market, and to require that, it's not going to make the building any smaller. It's not really going to change any. It's really just, we're seeing more of that 1 to 1.1, 1.2. We will have electric car chargers on here, which also reduce our requirement for parking. So look, what we're trying to create here is, what I'm trying to create here is a product that I'm honestly thinking of my parents that refuse to leave Maplewood, but don't want to live in a house and maintain that anymore. So this is going to be a higher end building, similar to what Avalon Bay built. I'm certainly not going to be able to charge the rents that they are getting over there, given the amenity package. But we're looking at a very aesthetically pleasing building, which also requires some changes with respect to shielding of certain mechanicals on the roof with heights. And so that's sort of the stuff that we're looking to amend in this plan. So I'm asking that we at least be designated as redevelopers so that we can begin that process to work with you guys to build something that everyone on this screen and the community will care about and appreciate.
Yeah, and I just might add that, I've been representing Somerset for decades now, and they are recognized as one of the top visionary developers in the state, and they're also recognized for the collaborative efforts they make to work with the township redevelopment agencies to come up with the best plan for the property, bringing their vision to the committee and working closely with the committee to create the best project for the area. So I'll share that because it is a recognized trait that they have, and I think any town that gets Somerset is lucky to have them, the way they work with the town so closely to make sure they come up with a project that is beneficial to the town.
Can you back off that? We are not the developer that's going to come in and put a picture on the screen and then get it approved and then come back a few weeks later and say, oh, by the way, I can't really build that. It's too expensive. I need to change. That's not how we operate. We are known for our architectural approaches and that sort of stuff. And if I did do that, I know Roger would never let me live it down. So I would never, ever try to cross Roger Desideri.
So gentlemen, thank you. I want to get to questions from the committee. I have some myself. So can you remind us, Mr. Gold, when you expect to close on 8 Vermont?
I think our closing date is scheduled for Thursday, Mike.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that. And can you give us a sense of when you think, if this were to move forward, that we would actually see construction here? Because I know that the Hertz site in particular. Yeah, can you talk about that?
Sure. So we purchased the Hertz, the building with the Hertz in it. Hertz has a lease that runs through the end of the year. However, they have a 2-year option that they can pick up, which they have already we've begun discussions about them picking that up specifically. So, if they pick that up, which I fully expect, we wouldn't really begin construction until 2 years. So January of 26 is when we would theoretically begin construction.
Right. Wonderful. Any questions from the rest of the Township Committee? Mr. DeLuca, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. So just a couple of things, and Mr. Desiderio, if you could just make sure I'm correct. We would only be able to designate them as a conditional developer for the Hertz site, which is 164749, and the next door 5153, because the 8 Vermont is not part of the redevelopment plan yet, correct?
That is correct. That would be, that's why I think there's 2 asks here.
Right.
to ask is for one, and the second is to move forward.
All right, so the conditional, I'm in favor of the conditional developer for these two sites. And then once, if 8 Vermont does meet the criteria, we would have to amend the redevelopment plan and then amend our conditional designation to include 8 Vermont in that.
I think that would be the sequence, yes.
Right, okay. I also want to just raise the issue of parking again. This lot across the street, Ken, can you have your cursor? Yeah, the lot by Maple Crest Park here, yes. So we've designated that as a overnight parking lot at $50 a spot, and part of that is for the apartments that exist on Springfield Avenue. So we do understand that sometimes people do have more than one car or what's available in the complex. So there are some parking areas which this could be, for overflow parking on a monthly basis. We do this do it at Yale, we do it in Indiana, and so forth. And then I just want to back up when the mayor asked about the site, just so people understand, the Area 3 runs from Burnett Avenue, and this roof, big roof here is Walgreens, and then it runs west to Vermont Street and then over there. Correct. Thank you. And then back. So that's not Vermont yet.
Yeah, sorry.
Got a little carried away there.
Excuse my.
Yeah. So in any event, it's a fairly large complex. Now, this will not include Maplewood Tire. There's no interest in the owner selling that. So that will remain. We're not talking about taking any property. This is you're purchasing this property free and clear. So this is consistent with the plan. And then lastly, Mr. Desiderio, it has been our practice, I believe, that we do not accept escrow payments or any developer input when we are doing an investigation of a site. That really is our cost as the town. So even though there was an offer to pay for the investigation of 8 Vermont Street, it is our practice not to do that, so we don't have developer money influencing the process. Is that correct?
That is generally correct, but I think what Mr. Bruno is suggesting is, since they become the conditional or developer for this site, including that property, I think it would, and listen, the township committee doesn't have to do it if they choose not to, but I don't think there's anything wrong with or anything violative of the law if, given in the circumstances here, is that you did include those costs as part of in the escrow.
What would you advise?
I would take their money.
I was just gonna say that. I'm like, I can't even believe I'm hearing that we're saying no to money, but, and especially since this is because this part of this property is being purchased by that. This is strictly guided by the need of the developer as opposed to, so, and I'm sure Mr. Greigel looks at it and thinks it's contrary to the proper plan for the redevelopment. He will let us know.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have faith in Mr. Greigel. By the way, just to mention, and Mr. DeLuca, you'll remember this. This was not Mr. Greigel's firm who did this original study.
Correct.
This goes back to, I can't remember the gentleman.
Stewart.
Yeah, Stewart, right. So Mr. Geigel's going to have to look at this, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it, Mr. Luke. Now, if the governing body says no, they don't want to do that, then I understand, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And when I say wrong, I don't think there's anything violative of the law.
Okay. Well, if you're recommending it, I'm willing to go with your recommendation.
Before we take formal action, I just want to see if there's any questions that committee member Adams or Cripe have.
I think the public would be interested to know, is there going to be a pilot request on this site or no?
I am not making a formal request, no.
Okay.
That's good too.
Mhm.
Okay, so Mr. Desiderio, will you walk us through our 2 official actions this evening so we can take action?
Well, we'll do so. Mr. Bruno, did Ms. Cafoni reach out to you from?
No, I have not heard from Christine.
No, not Christine, Tiana. Oh, maybe it is.
No.
Tiana Cafoni.
No, I have not heard from her.
Okay, so and I had spoken to her, so she will reach out to you And she will, assuming the governing body is in agreement, she'll prepare the 2 resolutions that you have, that you've asked for. And she will put them on for formal acceptance at the next meeting. And she will also prepare an escrow agreement for your consideration, so we can get going. We'll have some conversations with Mr. Greigel about him getting ready to move forward with this. And I think at the September 5 meeting, we should have everything in order.
Mr.
Mr.
Disner,
Excuse me, Mr. Bruno, she was going to reach out with you specifically to just discuss the issue of conflicts, but she hasn't. I'll follow up with her.
Oh, you know what? She has. That spurs the
I'm glad.
remember.
I'm glad, so I don't have to yell at her. I don't have to yell at her for not reaching out to you.
Oh, and in fact, I responded to her, and she followed up with the second question, which I responded to, and then she thanked me for the information. So yes, my apologies. I forgot that was in connection with the conflict. So
at least my money will go to good use with these guys, Mike. Jeez.
Well, I get 400 emails a day, so sometimes I forget 1 or 2.
Okay. So anyway, so that would be the process, Mayor, Mr. DeLuca. We would do that. We would have the resolutions on for the September 5 meeting, and then you would take formal action with regard to them at that time. But I guess what we're looking for right now is a consensus to move forward.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Sure.
Yep.
I do have a question. We typically ask Mr. Greigel to provide us with a proposal. Should we
Yes.
take action tonight or wait till September 5th to ask for that proposal?
No, we should ask, I would ask that you ask Mr. Greil to give us a proposal so that we could send it on to Mr. Bruno, Mr. Gold, so they know what his prices are going to be.
Mayor, do you want to move that?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Gold and Mr. Bruno. Appreciate you being with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
RBIs are the most important stat in baseball.
This is not a public forum for this, all right?
Offline.
Hey, gentlemen, I'm going to move the consent agenda items 14A through 14L. Can I get a second?
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe. Did we lose her?
Would appear.
I think we
Mr.
might-
No, I'm still here. I had to walk the dog. Sorry. Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes.
Motion
Did you
passes.
ask me?
I
No.
did.
Okay, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear you say Mr. DeLuca either. Okay, so you have our votes, yes?
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes. Great. Public comment, second period, any subject matter, Mr. Wary?
If any members of the public would like to speak in public portion, please raise your hand on the web version or press *9 on your phone. I see no one to speak, Mayor.
Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Before we adjourn, Mr. Desideri, can you just identify for the public the woman that you were referring to? Has she called you? Has she reached out? Yes, she did.
Oh, I
No, she didn't.
apologize. Yeah, Tiana Cafone Esquire is an attorney with McManaman in Scotland. Our redevelopment counsel has been Jennifer Credidio. Unfortunately, Jennifer's had some significant family health issues involving members of her family, not her personally. And Ms. Cafone has been filling in admirably for her, and that's who it is. And I apologize for not identifying her better to begin with.
Okay, thank you for that. I move that we adjourn and meet again on Tuesday, September 5th at 7:30 p.m.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Kripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you
Meeting's
all. Have a good